I never planned to ruin my mother's wedding, but when your future stepsister calls you nobody in front of the entire family, sometimes the perfect revenge comes with a property deed. Before I tell you how I turned their dream wedding venue into their worst nightmare, let me know in the comments if you've ever been dismissed by someone who had no idea who you really were. Hit that like button if you believe karma comes with a real estate portfolio. This story is for you. My name is Olivia Morgan, and at 28 I was living what appeared to be two completely separate lives. To my mother and her new family, I was the disappointing daughter who did something in real estate and couldn't afford a decent car. In reality, I was the owner of Morgan Heritage Properties, a luxury venue and estate management company worth over $200 million. The irony? The exclusive Hamilton estate where my mother Patricia was planning her dream wedding to Richard Hamilton was actually mine. Not that anyone knew that, yet. Growing up in suburban Connecticut, it was always just Mom and me after Dad died when I was 8. We weren't poor thanks to Dad's life insurance, but Mom was always chasing the next level of social status. When she met Richard Hamilton, a wealthy widower with 2 daughters at a country club fundraiser, I knew everything would change. Richard's daughters, Ashley and Madison Hamilton, were walking stereotypes of old money privilege. Ashley, 26, worked as a social media influencer, while Madison, 24, managed their father's social calendar. Both treated me with the kind of calculated disdain that only comes from a lifetime of inherited wealth. "Oh, you sell houses?" Ashley had sneered during our first meeting. How quaint. What they didn't know was that by then, I already owned the company that managed their father's favorite golf club. My journey to secret success started with my father's death. While Mom threw herself into social climbing, I found comfort in studying the one thing Dad had loved most: historic properties. He'd been a restoration architect, and his old books became my escape. "Your father saw the soul in old buildings," my godfather, Marcus Sullivan, told me during one of our regular visits. As Dad's best friend and business partner, he became my mentor after Dad died. He could see past the decay to the potential underneath. It turned out I had inherited that vision. By 16, I could spot a property's hidden value better than most professional developers. Marcus noticed and started teaching me everything he knew about real estate investment and property management. "Your mother wants you to focus on college applications," he said during my senior year of high school, "but I have a different proposition." That proposition changed my life. Marcus had been quietly building a property management empire, and he saw in me the successor he'd never had. While Mom thought I was heading to state college with a partial scholarship, I was actually entering an intensive apprenticeship in luxury property development. "Learn everything," Marcus insisted. "Start from the ground up. Understanding every aspect of this business will be your greatest advantage." So I did. I worked as a housekeeper in luxury venues, learning what high-end clients really wanted. I trained with groundskeepers, understanding estate maintenance from the soil up. I shadowed event planners, absorbing the intricacies of the luxury venue business. All while taking online business classes and building a network that would later become invaluable. By 23, I had earned my first million through clever property flips that Marcus helped me structure. By 25, when Marcus was ready to retire, he sold me his company for a fraction of its worth, with one condition. "Keep your success quiet," he advised. "In this business, being underestimated is an advantage." I took his advice to heart, maintaining a modest appearance while building my empire. Mom remained blissfully unaware, too caught up in her social climbing to notice that my little real estate job was actually a growing fortune. Then came the Hamilton estate. I'd had my eye on the historic property for years. A stunning 50-acre estate with a Georgian mansion that had hosted New England's elite for generations. When it came on the market due to the owner's bankruptcy, I acquired it through one of my holding companies, renovated it to perfection, and turned it into the most exclusive wedding venue on the East Coast. So when Mom called, bubbling with excitement about her engagement to Richard Hamilton and their plans to marry at the most perfect venue in Connecticut, I had to bite my tongue. "We're having the wedding at the Hamilton estate," she gushed. "Richard's family used to be close with the previous owners, so he's sure they can get us a good rate from whoever owns it now." I managed to keep my voice neutral. "That's nice, Mom. I've heard it's beautiful." What followed was 6 months of watching my mother, Richard, and his daughters plan their perfect wedding at my property, all while treating me like an irrelevant observer. The breaking point came during the wedding planning weekend, 3 months before the big day. The entire extended family had gathered at the estate for a detailed venue tour and planning session. I arrived late, deliberately, driving my old Honda Civic that I kept specifically for family appearances. Ashley and Madison were already holding court on the grand staircase I had personally designed. "Oh look," Madison announced loudly as I walked in. "The real estate agent finally made it." "Actually," I started to correct her, but Mom cut me off. "Olivia, darling, couldn't you have dressed more appropriately? This is an important day." I looked down at my simple black dress, which probably cost more than Ashley's entire designer outfit, not that they'd recognize the subtle luxury brand. Richard's mother, Elizabeth Hamilton, swept over to join the conversation. Now, Patricia. Not everyone understands proper attire for such venues. Perhaps your daughter could help the staff with arrangements, since she has experience in property matters." Before I could respond, the estate's manager, Sarah Collins, appeared in the foyer. She froze momentarily upon seeing me. After all, I signed her paychecks, but caught my subtle head shake. "Welcome to Hamilton Estate," she began her usual introduction. "We're honored to host such a prestigious event." Yes, Ashley interrupted. "Daddy already told us about his family's history here. This is practically our second home." Sarah's eye twitched slightly. If they only knew who really owned their second home. The final straw came during the wedding planning meeting in the grand ballroom. As the family discussed seating arrangements, Madison turned to Mom with a concerned expression. "Where are we seating Olivia? She's not going to be at the family table, is she?" "She's nobody," Ashley declared dismissively. "Just seat her with the vendor staff since that's basically her level anyway." The room fell silent, waiting for my mother's response. And in that moment, when she simply continued discussing flower arrangements as if she hadn't heard the insult to her only daughter, I made my decision. Looking around the ballroom I had personally renovated, at the crystal chandeliers I had sourced from Venice, at the antique mirrors I had restored by hand, I knew exactly how this story would end. "Sarah," I called out quietly, "could you bring me the venue's property documents?" "All of them." Sarah met my eyes across the room and smiled. "Of course, Ms. Morgan. Right away." The real show was about to begin. The room buzzed with activity as Sarah left to retrieve the documents. My mother and the Hamiltons continued their planning, completely oblivious to the bomb I was about to drop. "The minister will begin the ceremony here," Richard's event planner gestured grandly. "Then the reception will flow through these historic halls that have hosted New England's finest families for generations." Ashley smirked in my direction. "Some of us understand the significance of such venues. Others, well, they're just lucky to be invited." I watched Sarah return with a leather portfolio bearing my company's discreet logo. Inside were the property deeds, renovation permits, and historical documentation, all bearing my name or my company's. "The paperwork you requested, Ms. Morgan," Sarah said formally, loud enough for everyone to hear. Madison laughed. "Why would she need to see property paperwork? Unless she's parking cars for the wedding." Elizabeth Hamilton, ever the family matriarch, stepped forward with a concerned frown. "Perhaps we should focus on the important details. The Hamilton estate has always been associated with proper society, and we must maintain certain standards." I opened the portfolio slowly, savoring the moment. "Oh, I completely agree about maintaining standards. That's why I spent $12 million on renovations last year." The room fell silent. "What did you say?" Richard asked, speaking directly to me for perhaps the first time ever. I pulled out the first document, the property deed with my name clearly listed as owner. I said I spent $12 million renovating my property. The new ballroom chandeliers alone were $400,000. Mom's face had gone pale. "Olivia, what are you talking about?" "It's quite simple," I replied, laying out more documents on the antique table I'd imported from France. "I own the Hamilton estate. In fact, I own 12 other luxury venues across New England, but this one is special. It's my flagship property." Ashley lunged for the papers, her designer heels clicking on the marble floors I'd sourced from Italy. "This is impossible." "Daddy, tell her this is impossible." Richard adjusted his glasses, lawyer instincts kicking in as he examined the documents. "These appear to be legitimate. But how?" Would you like to see the company financials as well? I offered, nodding to Sarah, who produced another folder. Morgan Heritage Properties owns over $200 million in luxury estates and venues. This property alone generated $8 million in revenue last year. Elizabeth Hamilton sank into a nearby chair, a restored 18th century piece that had cost me $50,000. But your car, your clothes, are chosen specifically to maintain a certain image, I completed her thought. It's amazing how much people reveal when they think you're nobody. Mom stepped forward, her hands shaking. All this time, your little real estate job is actually a luxury property empire? Yes. I turned to Madison and Ashley. By the way, that second home comment? Technically, you've been trespassing on my private property every time you've visited without proper booking. The color drained from their faces as the implications sank in. But the wedding, Mom whispered. We've already sent invitations. Ah yes, the wedding. I picked up their planning folder. Let's discuss that, shall we? You've booked my most exclusive venue through standard channels, claiming a family connection that doesn't exist, while treating the actual owner like service staff. Richard, ever the businessman, tried to take control. Surely we can come to some arrangement. Like what? I asked pleasantly. Special treatment for the family that called me nobody, and suggested I park cars at my own estate. Sarah stepped forward with another document, the venue's standard contract. Ms. Morgan, shall I review the terms regarding client conduct and venue respect policies? Please do, I smiled. Pay special attention to the cancellation clauses. As Sarah read out the strict behavior and respect requirements that I'd personally written into every contract, I watched the Hamilton family's perfect wedding plans crumble in real time. Ashley attempted one last power play. Daddy, just buy the property. She's clearly not qualified to manage something of this caliber anyway. I laughed then, actually laughed out loud. You think your father can afford this estate? The Hamilton estate alone is valued at $45 million. And it's not for sale at any price. But your car. Madison sputtered. Your clothes. I pulled out my phone and pulled up my private garage collection. You mean the Honda I keep for family visits? Would you prefer I arrived in the Bentley? Or maybe the vintage Aston Martin? Next, I opened my closet app, displaying my extensive wardrobe of subtle luxury pieces. As for my clothes, this simple black dress costs more than your entire wedding budget. I just prefer understated elegance to obvious labels. The room had descended into chaos. Elizabeth Hamilton was having what appeared to be a mild panic attack. Ashley and Madison were furiously Googling Morgan Heritage Properties on their phones. Richard was still examining the property documents as if hoping to find a loophole. And my mother stood in the middle of it all, finally seeing me clearly for perhaps the first time in 20 years. Why didn't you tell me? She asked quietly. Would you have believed me? I countered. Or would you have been too busy trying to impress the Hamiltons with their fake family connection to this estate? Sarah cleared her throat delicately. Ms. Morgan, shall I inform the staff about potential changes to the wedding arrangements? I looked around the room. My room in my estate filled with people who had dismissed and underestimated me for months. No, I said finally. Not yet. First, I think it's time for a proper tour of my property. Let me show you exactly what nobody has built. The revelations were far from over and I was just getting started. The tour that followed was a masterclass in elegant revenge. I led my stunned family group through the estate, detailing every renovation, every custom feature and every million-dollar decision I'd made. This wallpaper, I explained, running my hand along the silk-covered walls of the main hall, was hand-painted in Paris. $200,000 for this wing alone. Madison, remember when you said it looked tacky and nouveau riche? The artist actually created it specifically for British royalty. Madison had the grace to blush. Ashley, however, wasn't quite ready to surrender her perceived superiority. Anyone can spend money, she sniffed. It doesn't mean you understand true elegance. I stopped at the grand staircase. Interesting perspective. Sarah, what was our rating in last month's Luxury Venue Quarterly? The Hamilton estate was ranked number 1 in North America, Sarah replied smoothly. The article particularly praised the owner's impeccable taste and understanding of historic preservation while catering to modern luxury. The owner, Elizabeth Hamilton repeated weakly. All this time? Yes, I confirmed. Every time you bragged about your family's connection to this estate, you were actually bragging about my property. Every time you dismissed me as nobody, you were insulting the person who owned the very ground you were standing on. We reached my private office, a space that perfectly blended historic architecture with modern luxury. The walls were lined with architectural awards and magazine covers featuring my venues. Your little social media influence career? I addressed Ashley directly. Half your most popular posts were taken at my properties. In fact, you've been inadvertently promoting my business for years. Richard, who had been unusually quiet, finally spoke up. Your business acumen is impressive. Perhaps we could discuss some sort of partnership. You mean now that you know I'm wealthy? I cut him off. No, thank you. I prefer to maintain complete control of my properties. Mom had been following silently, her eyes growing wider with each revelation. Now she stepped forward, tears in her eyes. Olivia, I had no idea, all these years. That's the point, Mom. You never asked. You were too busy trying to marry into what you thought was old money to notice that your own daughter had built something substantial. I led them to the estate's wine cellar, where I'd installed a state-of-the-art tasting room. This renovation alone cost $3 million. Would anyone like a drink? I find Dom Perignon helps with processing difficult truths. As Sarah arranged champagne service, I pulled up my company's portfolio on the room's hidden screens. Properties across New England appeared, each more stunning than the last. Morgan Heritage Properties specializes in historic estate renovation and luxury venue management, I explained, watching their faces as they realized the true scope of my success. This estate was my first major acquisition, but certainly not my last. But how? Madison burst out. How did you afford all this? Hard work, smart investments, and the advantage of being underestimated, I replied. While you were busy managing your father's social calendar, I was building an empire. Every time you treated me like staff, I was actually your landlord. Elizabeth Hamilton had finally found her voice again. The wedding, what happens now? I sat back considering the question. The power to destroy their perfect wedding plans lay entirely in my hands. That depends, I said slowly. Are you still comfortable having nobody involved in your celebration? The silence was deafening. Here's what's going to happen, I continued. If you want to keep your wedding date at my venue, there will be some changes. First, a new contract at my personal client rate. No more pretending about family connections. Second, I'll be at the family table, not with the staff. And third, I smiled. An apology. A public one. This is blackmail, Ashley protested. No, I corrected. This is business. You wanted to get married at the most exclusive venue in New England. This is what it costs, financially and personally. Mom stepped forward then, her social climbing ambitions warring with maternal pride. Olivia, I've been so blind. So focused on finding status that I didn't see you had already achieved it. Can you forgive me? I looked at my mother, really looked at her, and saw something new in her eyes. Respect. The wedding can proceed, I said finally. But from now on things will be different. I'm not the daughter you need to apologize for anymore. I'm the daughter who owns the empire you wanted to marry into. The weeks that followed brought dramatic changes. The Hamiltons, faced with the choice between swallowing their pride or finding a new venue on short notice, chose pragmatism. Ashley and Madison's social media suddenly featured glowing posts about their brilliant future stepsister. Elizabeth Hamilton began bragging about her soon-to-be relation to the owner of Morgan Heritage Properties. The wedding itself was perfect. I made sure of it. After all, excellence is the best revenge. Mom found me alone in my office just before the ceremony. I didn't just miss seeing your success, she said quietly. I miss seeing you. Really seeing you. Well, I replied, standing to adjust her veil, now you have the chance to start over. With your actual daughter, not the version you thought needed fixing. I'm so proud of you, she whispered. Your father would be too. As I walked my mother down the aisle of my estate, past the luxury I'd created and the success I'd hidden, I thought about all the times I'd been dismissed as nobody. Each slight had just been fuel for my fire, each dismissal another brick in my empire. The minister, reading from his notes, began, "We are gathered here today at the magnificent Hamilton estate." "Actually," I interrupted with a smile, "it's the Morgan estate now. After all, sometimes the best revenge isn't just success. It's making sure everyone knows exactly who succeeded. Have you ever been underestimated by family? Ever had to hide your success until the perfect moment? Share your story in the comments below. And if this tale of hidden triumph and sweet revelation resonated with you, don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories about success served with a side of justice. Remember, sometimes being nobody is the perfect cover for becoming somebody they'll never forget.